Alright, it is day 2. Today is the first day of classes. However, I showed up to class and I didn't see anyone there. So I have determined that my first class was canceled, I guess. So that's great. Unfortunately, I didn't get out here as early as I would have liked, but after yesterday, and I got to bed slightly later than I was hoping to. It just wasn't quite in the cards. So I've been out here since about 8. It's like 10:30, and I've successfully gotten the cross member out. That was a bitch, because there's these bolts that are recessed in these pockets, and this cross member is junk, but here's why it's junk. That's mud, packed entirely solid. This was all a brick. So the bolts were pretty rusty, and being fine thread, it was just a pain in the ass. I had to cut one of them, and it's in quite the inconvenient location up under the car. So yeah, that sucked, but it's out. And looking at how much of a pain it was to do this in the shed, I'm almost contemplating fixing this one instead of replacing it, just because it's going to be a real nightmare to get it out of the 62, which is in the grass in Palmer's yard. That would be an absolute nightmare. I'm going to take a look at it. If it's not like really crusty and the bolts actually look somewhat nice, I might just do it. But if they're as nasty as this one was, then it's just gonna stay, and I'm gonna fix this, because it's really not that rusty, I guess. That's the only bit of rust that I can see on initial inspection on like the side, the main structural member. And then this bottom plate is dust, but this is thinner metal than the sides, so it might just be easier to fix this, because this is pretty simple stuff. So we'll see. Had to come out because it's going to make it easier to do the transmission, and because this is nasty. So that was this morning's project. Yesterday, let's see, what did I do? Alright, so yesterday, what I did was get the heater put in. That seemed to go fairly well. I realized the one thing I forgot on my list of parts to bring was heater hose, because I've got a whole roll of it at home, so I'm gonna have to buy some, unfortunately, but whatever. This is all in. Everything seems to work, which is nice. It went fairly easily, and when I took the old heater core apart, I could very well see that that one was most definitely blown, as I suspected, and the one that went in does not look so bad. One thing I did notice, see that? That is the dash pad slightly expanding, because, it's ancient. This is about as nice as they come, but it's still doing this. The vinyl is kind of moving away from the pad, and it almost completely blocks this defroster vent. So at some point, this has got to come out, and I got to fix that. Either trim it or glue it or something, but not a huge deal. The driver's side actually seems to work okay. It's not blocking it hardly at all, but I digress. I got the ignition switch put in. That was a bit of a pain, but went okay. Ignition privileges reinstated. That's very nice. So yeah, I did that. I swapped over that armrest. It was all blown apart and scuzzy, so that is a nice one, or nice-ish anyway. Fairly presentable. And then up here, I've been busy. I took some stuff apart just so I could access all the bolts for the fenders, or at least the back sides of the bolts. And I'm soaking them all with penetrant, because they're going to be a pain to get out. Most of them are going to be relatively straightforward. However, those two are going to be a pain, because there's not much left here, and I can't just cut it all entirely apart, because I actually need this piece still. This is all going, but I don't know, it's gonna be fun. But I'm leaving that until a little bit later. I want to just soak these for a couple days to try and make it as painless as possible. And then I haven't decided if I want to tear this all apart now or if I want to tear the 62 apart first and get the fenders off so I can work with them and then take this apart, or what I want to do. But I might just take all this apart so I can get underneath and pull the engine out and clean everything. That's some nice kind of mindless, no stress tasks that need to get done. So yeah, that is what I've been up to for about 10 hours or so in total. But alright, I guess until more happens.